Everybody, I'm Caroline Flint. I'm chair of Humber Teaching NHS Foundation Trust, and we're delighted to have you all here today for our annual members meeting. Welcome to our staff who've been having these fantastic stalls here and outside in the marquee. It's so great to see you all. I hope you've enjoyed it. Have you enjoyed it, selling your wares? Yes, yes. What you show is such depth and range of different services we provide at Humber, but also just always looking for new ways to do things, always looking for new ways to support our patients. And to any of our patients who are here today, for any of their families or service users, welcome. Welcome to our governors as well, who are here today, some of our governors, and you'll be hearing from Tony Douglas, one of our governors later on, and welcome to my colleagues on the board as well, and all the team who've put today's event together. It is an annual event. There is a very serious part of the agenda, which will be provided by Pete Beckworth, our Director of Finance, where he'll go through all the money and the finance report, but also we'll have some opportunities to hear about the last year and what we've been up to, but also looking ahead, and Michelle Moran, our Chief Exec, will be doing that. And as I said, Tony Douglas will be giving a report from the governors as well. But also, today, it's always nice to have somebody who can share with us some of their journey about what they've done, but also someone who's from our local communities. And so we're really delighted, I'm really delighted, to invite Lucy Beaumont up to the platform and hear from Lucy. Can you put your hands together, please? Right, you know how to use a mic, I'm sure. Yeah, a few times. So Lucy, it's great to have you with us. I mean, I know you were born in Truro, in Cornwall, a while since, yeah. But actually, you know, you came to Hull early in your life and was at school here, primary, secondary, and then at the university. And you were very much a daughter of Hull, and very proud of that, aren't you? Yeah, I was born on holiday by mistake. It's exactly what we were on a caravan holiday. Came back. And that was it. Yeah. And our trust, as you know, offers a huge range of different initiatives for people across. In fact, Michelle says that the services we've got cover a patch the size of Belgium. Yeah. And she reminds us of often, not that Belgium's the biggest country in the world, but I think it gives you a sense of where we are in the community. Up to Whitby, I couldn't believe. Up to Whitby, Bridlington, the whole area, and other parts of North Yorkshire as well. When you were growing up in Hull, as a child, as a young person, were you aware of all these different services in the community, and have things changed from what you've seen? Well, Hill was the best one. If you were to Hull Royal, you thought, oh shit. If you were putting Castle Hill, Castle Hill. You had to get a bit more dressed up if you were visiting somewhere. Did you? Yeah. So that was my that was my only and so my mum, we had to use both Castle Hill and Hull Royal a lot. My mum, when I was in primary school, slipped all the discs in her back apart from one, and I think there's an operation now, but the operation then was 50-50 if she'd ever walk again, so they kept her in. She was in a year. Wow. And then we're still using it. They put her on traction, and so we basically spent quite a few years, you know, in it with her in out of hospital. So I've got that side of it. Yeah. And what about a school? Was there school nurses coming in to school when you were younger to put you on the pill? Yeah. Put you on the pill. Yeah. Everyone, even the boys. Well, everyone was put on the pill. But I think boys should be included in responsibility for fertility, don't you? Yeah, everyone was put on Vicodin, and that sent everyone crazy for years. But I think they've stopped putting young children on that now. I hope so. We've got someone to confirm that from the clinical side of the organisation. So just to say, by the way, all these questions have been provided by our staff and some of our patients and others from the community who've sent them in. So I haven't made these up. These have come from other people who were interested to know what Lucy had to say. So we know more than ever, and we're still learning about neurodiversity, and obviously our trust has services to support young people through assessment and some other support, and working with schools and others in the community. Now,
You recently, I understand, learned that you may have ADHD.
Yeah.
Do you think it would have made a difference to you if that had been identified earlier?
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny one. I could only speak from my personal point of view because it's not debilitating and it's not, for me, it's something that you can manage. It all makes sense now. It would have been nice because I did struggle, with sort of concentration and you do feel guilty. I'm adrift. I'm not active. I mean, I drift off, but that was important for creativity. It's helped me in my job. I think the worry is with the ADHD can go in tandem with autism, and I think we know a lot more about female autism, but it's so far off the mark, as everybody knows. Because I was in teaching sort of 10 years ago, worked in schools, so if the child was statemented, I would come in and do one-to-one with children with autism. And now I've got my daughter is at school, and I've got to know a lot of the class and stuff, and I'm quite horrified by children that I can see are struggling, and I have autism and ADHD, and there's no plan, and it's heartbreaking, and so I feel funny about talking about ADHD because I got a diagnosis done privately, and it hasn't impacted my work and stuff. But for the amount of people that can't get a diagnosis on the NHS with children, and then that leads into other problems because as everybody knows, so it's a funny thing I try to not talk about because I think, well, it's almost become a middle class thing, if you can afford to pay privately, so that I think really it'd be nice just to keep the attention on the backlog of children that they're desperate, to get that intervention early.
Absolutely, and we also know that lots of children, it may be ADHD, but it may be something else that they need support with as well, and that those partners in schools and working with families is a key part of that. But if you're just waiting to know, it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah. But you could only hope that under this government that the next cohort might be different. Anyway. Okay.
So when you were a child, were you someone that everyone thought made people laugh? And how did you get into comedy and writing?
I don't know, it's a funny thing because I don't always feel funny. I just want an argument, it's tricky jobs. But yeah, I do. I've got a funny family. Everyone's got funny bones, I think. And I wanted to be a serious actress, and I've ended up my life's like
still time. Lots of comedians go into serious drama.
I could only do a Westfall accent. I can't even do Eastall. I'm never going to get cast in anything. But in the comedy just finds me. I'm like some others do. I'm like, what's his name? I tried to be serious, and then I walk into a cupboard or something and get locked in. So I think it was always going to end up like this. Yeah.
And obviously, as you've become well known and even better known in lots of different things you do now, from obviously starting in stand-up, all the different projects you're involved in. And I know that you're involved in a lot of projects that are close to your heart that are health related too. How do you find about using, I suppose, for want of a better word, your celebrity to promote some of those causes that you're passionate about it and your platform to influence? I mean, there must be good things about it, but sometimes, you might think, oh, what am I doing, or what have you? How do you find that role?
It's really weird. It's weird. I mean, just like that, I just write jokes. I'm here now talking to people who've got proper jobs. It is an odd thing, once you do TV, and you do feel a responsibility to try and do things, things that you can, if you can. But yeah, I try to the areas that I'm passionate about, which is mainly around children. I try to dip in and out and do and try and help. It's an unusual job.
It's coming up for World Mental Health Day, and the theme this year is about the workplace. And I just wondered about your, in terms of mental health in workplaces, your workplaces, whether it's clubs or TV studio life. How do you think about that side of things, about what workplaces could do to support people in terms of the mental health? Not saying that every working men's club is actually going to sort of organise something specifically for whoever's the turn that night, but it does have an impact, doesn't it, your working life on your mental health?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I work in an industry that's got no HR department, so it sort of helps, to be honest, but and really it's helping each other. But the entertainment and TV industry is so different from any other,
Do you do any things, as your career developed, that you sort of thought, in terms of the sort of circuit you do and everything else, are there any things that you thought, I need to do more of this to get some balance in here? Or was that just too hard? How did you manage some of that?
Yeah, it's you wear a lot of hats with the job I do. Being a female in stand-up, was unbelievably sexist and misogynistic, and still is a little bit now. Just people don't want to say it as much. So you sort of have a thick skin, and then you do learn to protect yourself. I can tell now when I need to just remember it doesn't matter and take some time off, And a lot of it's like with everyone, it's phones, my biggest issue is constantly being on a phone, because my emails and like a lot of work now is done on WhatsApp. Yeah. And I've got like a box, and I have to put it in a box, or I'll keep checking it.
My daughter's got one of those as well.
So I think I have learned when to remind myself it is just a job, and to not let it impact, on your personal time. Which
do you feel more confident about that today? Now where you are in your career compared to when you first started, about saying no, or just saying I need to take
no, not at all. Still feel it as, I think, being self-employed and as a woman, and you worry about being too bullish, and you worry about being too you're slacking off, But I think it is getting more and more. I think a lot of companies, by the sounds of it, are saying, right, we won't email you after a certain time, and it's just so different in my line of work. But
what about being a parent? That must like everybody being a working parent is that's a whole nother level, isn't it? To think about. Completely. Yeah, you're learning every day, aren't you? Which no one tells you with being a parent. You're always learning, I think. And has it changed we were talking earlier about, your experience working in schools and seeing children. Being a parent, has it changed your view around mental health and children, young people? No, just so much more aware of it, because I've got an 8-year-old, and just so aware of, because I'm a patron Sheffield Children's Hospital, so we've been for quite a few years helping to raise money for their Becton, which is a mental health unit, and so we've, it's not exactly training, but sort of, we've had a lot of talks about how that begins and factors involved, and that it's so scary, when you hear from professionals that so much is coming from TikTok and social media and YouTube and the algorithms, and I have to say, so my kids are adults. We didn't have to cope with that sort of thing when my kids were young. It must be so hard for parents today. Well, you just love to I think every parent feels the same. You want to protect them, don't you? You want to just let them never have it, And then I was there yesterday, and the deputy head of the school that's attached to it was saying that the Quality Care Commission have said that phones are a human right, so all children under their care can have the phones on them all the time. Like that, how do you fight battles? Do we agree with that? We might have the conversation about that. Yeah, but it's just what I'm trying to say is it just feels such a big global problem that you think, because she's only 8, I think
I hope it all changes. You know,
Yeah.
that it's not cool, you know, to be on your phone that way.
So one of the questions we've got here is, if you had to make one thing compulsory in all schools that could support children's mental health, what would you choose and why?
Meditation.
Yeah.
And it's still like, I feel embarrassed saying that because it still seems a bit hippy dippy. But I think some people naturally meditate and they don't realise they're doing it, and some people need to be taught. And we're not. It's a life skill, and I don't mean. And I think it's it's not like, you know, sitting cross-legged going on. And I think it's literally that mindfulness of knowing how to slow down your heartbeat and not have racing thoughts and be able to focus. And we, you know, we teach children a lot of things. I mean, I've worked in primary schools, we've taught them to use a knife and fork, but we don't teach them how to breathe and be calm and centre themselves. Every school should be doing it, like in every day.
It wouldn't cost much either, would it?
It's free, no, but I think it's seen as hippie, you know, it's still seen as something. But you know, teachers should be taught it, and if you know, and I do. I think there's even the mindfulness is. I think that's probably a better way. But it is sort of just breathing.
Yeah.
You know, breathing properly. I think that should be in schools.
Thank you for that. And you've been really honest about your journey to be a mum. Do you feel there's still any stigma, or there is still stigma attached to seeking, you know, mental health support when you're, you know, might be struggling for new parent?
Yes, there is, and again, I felt like I did have postnatal depression, but then felt I live in a nice house and I've got a family around me. I'm not going to bother anyone about it, and turn down any services. And again, you know, it improved, and a lot to do with sleep, you know, and genetics, I think, because like it was in the family with all mums in the family, you know. So I do wonder if that, you know, I wonder if it was biologically, like the dip in hormones with us. But my worry, you know, again, is like I was all right. It is that what I'm waiting for the Labour government to talk about more is early intervention and putting the money into those critical, you know, with mums that haven't got that support, those first few weeks and months and years, where, you know, I think Home Start is a brilliant charity that should be absolutely huge and really well funded, that you've got trained individuals who can go in and practically help with things, but also deliver you know, that really good mental health support. I think I'm sure I'm speaking to the converted, but you can see how that would actually cost less in the long run, you know. But yeah, so that for me seems to be where I'd like to see my my tax money going personally. Yeah.
And people are talking all about that first 1,001 days of a child's life. There's so many things that happen in that, you know, 3 years that are going to last with them going into school. You know, when they go into nursery, how they're prepared and what have you. And the whole thing you said about, you know, parents being able. We have some great projects across about that sort of understanding from a baby. They can have lots of emotional responses that you don't necessarily pick up on. And that's a project our staff have been involved in across the area as well.
Yeah, well, there's research, isn't there, now that then, you know, with that stress, the baby picking up on the mother's stress, you know, does cause a lot of issues down the line. Yeah, it would be lovely to see like things like Home Start, you know.
So how does humour play into your role as a parent as well? Does it help?
Yeah,
you know, sometimes it even sort of gallows humour when it's really difficult, you can still find something to smile about?
Oh yeah. I'm just from one of them families that I laugh with like dark humour. Like the more dramatic something is, the funnier, the funny. You know that you need, of course, to be able to laugh at stuff is massive. And my daughter, I think she's going to be a comedian. To be honest, she's really funny. You know, and it's massively important, isn't it? Yeah, I'm glad that.
Has she come up with any funny lines you thought, right, that's going into the act?
She likes going, but she's sort of stopped it now. She was going to a Sunday school at the church because it's quite fun, you know. She really enjoyed it.
Plasticine stable and things like that.
Yeah, it's really good church. It's got like a rock band and stuff, and she liked going. And they were doing, the lady who ran it, she stopped me afterwards. She said, "Can I just tell you what was said?" She said, we're doing this class about the Bible, and we was talking about it in a child-friendly way. And I was saying about Father Christmas and the Tooth Fairy. And I said to the children, "Can you think of anything else that you can't see, but you just know is there?" And my daughter put her hand up and said, "My bumhole." She's right. She's right. You can't deny that at all.
Yeah, it's always nice when you sort of, for the kids at school, start writing in their books what happened at the weekend, and, you know, Mum was really angry, or we didn't go to this, that, and the other, and I was naughty. And it's your whole life as a parent is laid out for you, isn't it, in those lovely little pages that will be immortalised forever.
Yeah.
So here's some other questions, stuff. Who would your 3 dream dinner guests be?
You, of course. Oh gosh, that's a hard one, isn't it? Well, I think it would Caroline Aherne. I can't believe she's died. You know, I'd love to have met her, and I think, what would she have created now? You know, what it seems such a shame, doesn't it? Caroline Aherne and Victoria Wood, because they're both, you know, been. Massively, and maybe I'd add Dawn French. I think that would be a good
girls' night.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah, the 2 of them are dead, so maybe
have a spiritualist in there.
Yeah.
And just, you might not be living in Hull now, but it's great to see you do a lot of charity work in the communities. Holly's Riding, so you've got Sheffield as well, hospital there.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit of how you've supported your local community through your charitable work?
Well, which I've done quite a few things. I think because my background is in I was a teaching assistant and youth worker, and I think I got a phone call from a head teacher of a school that I used to work in, and she said that she was saying how when I was there, maybe 2 or 3 kids in her class she'd noticed, needed a bit more help, that there was, issues at home. And now she was saying it's, nearly half of the children, and the safeguarding plans have gone up and stuff. And she was in tears because she'd seen 2 children taking food out of the bins at the back of the school. And so that kick-started everything. And that's when I started to do fundraising in schools and looking at sort of weekend and holiday hunger and fundraising, doing like we've done like comedy nights in schools and stuff, but I've tried to do what I can. I never feel I do enough, because then work will get sort of all consuming. Like you were saying that, and I was thinking, God, I haven't done anything for ages, so I just try and do it a bit. But so basically, I think it was all from that phone call, really, that it was sort of emotive enough to go, I can't just, because it is really easy to raise money, I think that's what's been lovely about this job, is you can put on a comedy night and you're only doing an evening, it's no problem, and you can raise, between sort of 15 and 80 grand sometimes,
Can you come to us, please?
Yeah. let me know. It's easy to do. It's easy to do. The one at the City Hall one that we did for Children's Hospital raised 100 grand. Yeah, and I think we did one in New Theatre, and that was like 40 grand. So yeah, it's not hard to do.
And you can have fun, you know.
Yeah, people love it. Yeah. So
people are coming on to enjoy themselves as well as doing something that's good.
Yeah,
good for the soul.
Yeah.
So you do lots of different things. Obviously, you've done stand-up, but you've written comedy for programmes. Do you prefer live performances or writing comedy for other people on television? What's your
live, yeah, live. So I'm starting to gear up to do the third leg of the tour again. So I was gigging last night, so I was too bit tired. But live is just it's wonderful. You know, you can't that immediate reaction from an audience and travelling around, and every audience is like slightly different. You know. But yeah, you can't beat that really.
And I mean, part of the art of being a stand-up comedian is tackling the hecklers. And
you don't get anymore. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, people are being polite. Yeah, they are. Yeah, not in Grimsby.
And what can you? I mean, you must have had so many experiences with different type of hecklers, and I suppose actually that's part of the sort of help, you know, really helping to rebound off somebody saying so. But have you got any particular experiences of that? You thought, oh my God, what do I do with this person?
No, not really. It's usually me. I'm usually I get, you know, the sort of. I did a few shows in Ireland, and I do a bit about moleholes where I'm saying that my child can't understand because they say moleholes, and in Ireland all the gigs I did there they didn't know what moles were. They knew what moles were, but they were like, we don't have moles.
I thought they didn't have snakes.
No, they don't. Do they not have snakes?
Wasn't it the same? Or is it Republic Island before it's snakes?
Oh no, they actually don't have moles.
Oh, right. Okay.
So it stopped the show. It wasn't a hit. It was like, I can carry on. I just had to keep coming back to it. And if you look it up, it's unbelievable. It is down to like the ice skate, like they couldn't swim over. You wouldn't think they didn't have moles.
It's amazing what you learn on a night. Really.
Yeah.
And what's your favourite joke that you can tell us that's mindful? I was going to say, the question was, what joke could you tell us in public? And I thought, I'm thinking, are they saying what joke could you tell us in public that, is okay for this audience? I'm going to say, I'm sure you've got lots. I've heard you before.
I'm not going to tell you a joke. You have to come to my show at Hull Arena on the 5th of December. Yeah, and I've got lots in there.
So, what's the tour called?
It's called Lucy Beaumont Live.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. It says what it's in the tin. And you're going to be at the Hull Arena. What was the date again?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's in December. It's in December.
Yeah. Google Lucy Beaumont Live. She's coming to a place near all of you. And
the bonus arena. They've done well for themselves. Those bonus buzzers, haven't they? Unbelievable, isn't it?
Lucy, thanks for being with us today. Thanks for meeting our staff and going around the stands and hearing a bit of what we do. We'd love to sort of continue to get to know you, and if there's any projects we can support you with, but also with us, that'd be great.
I need a carpet fitting.
Carpet fitting on the stairs. We have an estates team, don't we? Hang on. Who's from estates? Anyone from estates? Well, you're from estates. I know that you run the job. Okay. We'll take that away. We'll take that away. Thank you, Lucy, so much.
Thank you.
Put your hands together for Lucy Beaumont. There you are, one of Hull's finest. So, okay, I'm now going to hand over to Michelle Moran, who's going to look back at the last year. Michelle.
Thank you. Everybody hear me now? Is that better? Well, it's a bit difficult to follow Lucy, isn't it, really? Because I'm not very good at jokes. And I was trying to try and think about a joke to start off with, and I can't. Part of my luminous spark says that I need to get out more and I need to be a bit more down to earth. So maybe I do need to learn a joke for next year. But anyway, thank you to Liz and Caroline. our chair, is an absolutely great host in relationship to Chat Show. So that was good. So thank you so much. I'm going to do the business part of the business end, which is around our year. So first of all, I'll introduce myself. I'm Michelle Moran. I'm honoured and privileged to be the Chief Executive of this fantastic NHS organisation. It is a unique and special place, and it gives me great pleasure to talk a little bit about, and it's only a snippet of what we've been up to this last year. And please note that the AMM and this part of the session relates to 23-24, so it is a little bit retrospective. But first of all, let me get to the right slide. Let me introduce who we are. So you will have seen some people around the organisation. Some of them are on the screen now. This is our board of directors. I'm not going to go through them all, but they are here, so please introduce yourselves. And together we help support and facilitate the organisation. And we do that together. We've got some new non-execs. So actually there's a couple of non-execs that would be remiss of me not to mention at this stage, whose term of office has expired, in as much as Mike Smith and Francis Patton, who were a real key players and key directors, non-exec directors in the year that I'm talking about. But I welcome Keith and Steph to our board. So just to remind ourselves about the vision, the mission and the values of the organisation: caring, learning and growing together. And you can see when I come on to some of the work that we've done, that these really underpin everything that we're about. And it was a privilege for me last year to launch our strategy. And I'm going to touch on a little bit about how we've developed that. So just to recap about our objectives, they're very difficult to read on that screen. So it's about improving quality for patients. Patients are the very centre of what we do. I'm a very proud nurse, midwife and health visitor, and I never forget that. I started off actually as a cadet nurse. So patient care is central, and you've seen the fantastic displays around that demonstrate that that is the absolute heart of what our staff is about. And it's about innovating for patient safety and quality. But it's also about that prevention, well-being and recovery. And there's some recovery that we've talked about around the stands today. But also about fostering partnerships, alliances, and just that general integration around bringing services together for patients. Promoting people, communities and social values. I'll come on to that shortly. But more importantly, alongside all this, is developing an effective workforce. We can't do this without any of our fantastic staff, and optimising an effective, sustainable organisation. So you've seen some of our fantastic services. This is only a flavour of what we do. We operate, as we've said, from an organisation that covers a geographical patch that's larger than Belgium. We've got over 80 sites. And you'll see from the little map on the corner, just that geographical size. And we do provide some national services as well. The best way I describe our services within the organisation, everything but acute care. So everything we more or less will provide at some part within that geographical footprint. And we even go into acute trust and provide ED, so emergency department services and services into wards, but not directly. So this is a very busy slide, but let me just take you through just some of the enormous key figures and numbers. This is all in our annual report. So we are an award-winning trust, I'll come on to that shortly, but we've got over 3,500 staff working for us and with us at the moment. We've got 120 plus fantastic volunteers, some of which are with us today, and you will have seen escorting you in, helping you in. We couldn't do anything without our fantastic volunteers. We've got 25 governors, and I'm hoping that some people have signed up to become are interested in being a governor as the election process has started. And we've got some active membership now of over nearly 4,000. We did a big refresh on our membership this year, so we've got really active membership, which is so important. When you think about, we've seen over 87,000 patients this year. That's a huge amount, but each one of those has been a really central and important contact. And we've looked after and cared for nearly 1,400 patients in our in our units. I'll come on to the friends and family test shortly, but there's some really interesting and some important statistics with that. I've mentioned we're an award-winning trust, and I'm very pleased to say that we continue to do that this year. And we've been nominated for several national awards and been really successful. And that is even in the challenging times, and I'll come on to those shortly. We've had Kirsten Bingham, who was Social Worker of the Year. We were highly commended in our Health Service Journal Awards, and they're sort of a bit like the Oscars of the NHS. And that was for Right Care, Right Person, which is a really innovative piece of work that's been rolled out nationally that we're doing with the police service. We got a commendation in patient safety in the Health Service Journal for our learning disability services Follow My Lead. And patient network, nurse place, use of digital. We've got a great digital offering. And we've also been nominated as well. And I think being nominated is just as important as highly commended or winning, because it just demonstrates the innovative work that staff are doing across the organisation. So we've had practice supervisors nominated, digital with the East Riding Partnership, and we've had lots of things from the Nursing Times Award, as well as parliamentary awards. Plus, we had a fantastic staff award ceremony at the end of last year. Excuse me. So coming back to our strategy, I did outline our objectives. It is our second year of our strategy. We continue to work towards a CQC rating of Outstanding Plus. Always a bit of a plus for me, never just stay with the one level. We've made further improvements within our annual report, which you'll see across all our performance areas. We're still having some that we need to work more on, but we've also co-produced more services this year. And if you remember, we also launched our patient and carer strategy last year. And I'm very pleased to say that that goes from strength to strength. And there is an 11-minute video about that people can get the links on our website, which I think will be well worth a watch. So we co-produce, we develop lots of things around staff health and well-being, and we want to get beyond outstanding. But what we do, and we do that well, is measure ourselves. But we also involve our patients and our service users. This year we've implemented and developed our patient safety incident response framework, which is a huge undertaking. And this is about learning when we don't quite get it right, but also how we can involve individuals, carers, their families when we don't get it right. And that honest, open approach to developing really developing our services and learning from incidents. Our experts by experience, we need to do more with our patients and that real feedback mechanism, but we've done a lot this year on that. And we've also started our Youth Recovery and Wellbeing College, which you'll have seen on your travels this morning. But we involve our patients and our carers more than ever before, and we will continue to do that. We've got a really great co-production stamp that we use to demonstrate that on our policies. And our estates team have been exceptionally busy this year as well, improving our, not just the Humber Centre, but our services across the patch. So I mentioned our friends and family test. There've been nearly 16,000 tests completed this year, where people leave our services and say how they feel about they've been treated and how they found the services. 88% were satisfied. So we've got work to do, but that's actually not a bad statistic. What's important is 93% found our staff friendly and helpful. Again, need to get that to near 100%, but it's actually a reasonable figure. And 92% were involved as much as they needed to be. And we've got a really great dashboard for friends and family, which we can have in real time, so we know what's happening and really getting that live feedback. So we've more work to do, but we continue to improve, which is the important bit. Now, apologies, this is a really busy slide, and I'm sure people will not be able to see it very well, but this is a bit about how we go about supporting staff. Because one of the things that we try really hard at the organisation is supporting the health and wellbeing of our staff. They are our greatest assets, and if we want to continue to develop and improve our services for patients, we have to really support our staff. Because if we keep our staff happy and really healthy, then they're going to want to work and do a really great job for us. And we couldn't do any of this without staff. So these are what we call the people pledges. And the different areas such as rewards, recognition, safe and healthy, engagement, morale. And I'm really pleased to say that this year we were above average in every single area this year, which is amazing. And that's down to every single person in this room and all the rest of the 3,600 staff that we've got. We've still got work to do. We had a great response rate of over 50% last year, about 56%, I think. We've still got more work to do, but we will continue to do that. We've increased recruitment. Our retention rates have improved. We've got an increased bank staff, which gives us flexible working. We've reduced our need for agency staff, and we'll continue to do and support our staff across everything. What was really important with the staff survey was that from 2016, we are the most improved organisation in England for our staff survey. So that's really positive. More work to do, always more work to do. So part of our strategy is about working in collaboration. And I feel really strongly that working in collaboration with our service users, our partners, our community is really beneficial to the outcomes that our patients need to see. It improves experience, but working collaboratively also helps fill gaps and inconsistencies. We need to be more trauma informed, which we're working through, but also working in collaboration with our families and our voices, which make it central to what we do. So we do work in collaboration. And that's also internally as well as externally. So let's just have a quick whiz round our directorates. You'll have seen some of the divisions around. But let's just go through a little bit about some of the things that they've achieved in the last year. We've mentioned Follow My Lead in learning disability services. In our forensic services, we've got working now really closely with the prison services. It wasn't something the organisation did a lot of, but we're working in partnership with other organisations to deliver prison services. And we're really looking at that outreach facilities as well. Single point of access in our specialist community forensic service. Primary and community care. Shaping, we mentioned Bridlington last year. We continue to shape the work that we do in health and social care and primary care in Bridlington. And we've got virtual awards. We've seen some of those fantastic virtual awards today in our display. Really delivering care closer to patients' home, which is what we really, really important. We've done lots of work around children and young people, and that's trauma informed. We lead a lot of that nationally. And as I've mentioned, the right care, right person, but also the physical health checks, again, which you'll have seen today. It's really important that we combine that health and well-being of our patients as well as the mental health. So health inequalities. We've got lots of work on health inequalities, and I'll touch on a little bit that later in my next session. For IT, we continue to develop our information technology as well as our IT capacity. Our volunteers are amazing. Couldn't do any of this without our 120 volunteers. Workforce, we've mentioned, but research, I'll give a little bit of a shout out. We've had another fantastic, successful research conference, and we're an organisation that really punches above our weight in research, both in primary care all the way through into our mental health services. And that's really, really positive because we learn and we develop and we innovate from a research base. I've mentioned a little bit about the environment, but we've also planted 200 trees because that comes back to our strategy around being sustainable. And you'll see some of those around the wider site here. And we've put solar panels on, and we've put a biomass boiler in, which I've got absolutely no idea what that is, but it sounds really sustainable and good. So thank you for that. But we've also increased our inpatient capacity across the board, but increased our facilities for staff health and wellbeing as well. It would be remiss of me to stand here and not say that we haven't got challenges. We have. And we will continue to work together with those as we progress. But the demand on our services continues to increase and increase ahead of the trajectories that we have been working through. But we'll work in collaboration with others as well as co-producing services and looking at the productivity. Specifically the demand in autism, ADHD, we touched on a little bit earlier, just the general frailty of our populations, but also access across our GP services. They're all areas that we're aware of, but all areas that we're constantly looking at, both as a board of directors, but more importantly, co-producing with the people that use those services. And finally, there's been lots of national issues, be that the tragedies in Essex, and our condolences goes out to those who were involved in Nottingham, but we will work together, and we were already well ahead of the field on some of our practices around assertive outreach and staff and patient engagement. But the core of what it is being humble. And I'm a great believer that culture is so important to develop our strategy. You can't have one without the other. So being humble is about restorative, just culture. It's about equality and diversity. It's about really mapping and understanding health inequalities. It's about learning and being compassionate. It's about treating everybody how we would want to be treated ourselves. So being humble is putting our patients first and centre every single time. Being courteous and civil, and we are compassionate. We act with integrity. We are inclusive. We communicate effectively, and we will work together. So being humble underpins everything. So I thank our board. I thank our staff. I thank our experts by experience. But hopefully you'll see by reading the annual report, just walking around the stands, that we have continued to listen, learn, engage and improve our services on the back of the challenges that I spoke about. So thank you for listening. It does give me great pleasure to launch our social values report, which you'll see around. I didn't mean to bring a copy up so I could wave it about. This is around how we make that extra bit of difference, which links into being humble, but it's a little bit about how we make a difference without it being from a contractual, performance-led point of view. So there's lots of work in there about the volunteers, lots of work about our youth groups. So please have a look at it because it's been launched today. It should be on your seats. It's really important, and it's about how we start to impact alongside all the other work that we do in relationship to that health and well-being, and just general community spirit and values. So I've got to press a button now, I think. I'm not quite sure where. This is just a short video that just tells you a little bit more about what I've said, and then I'll pass on to Pete to do the really important bit, which is the numbers piece. So thank you for listening. Any questions?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm not quite sure that was the music for the videos we were all expecting today. I often think I get a tough gig coming up here and presenting, following an uplifting video, but it feels like I'm following a Prodigy concert today. So bear with me and I'll do my best. So by means of an introduction, my name's Pete Beckwith and I'm the Finance Director here at the Trust. And I'm going to give you a presentation today on the financial review of the 23-24 financial year. On a little technicality, this isn't me presenting the accounts because our accounts are still subject to the final audit by our external auditors, and that's linked to the fact that we have a number of staff in the local government pension scheme. But if you enjoy the presentation today, tune into our Council of Governors in January because there'll be a similar set of slides presented. So before I start, very quickly, I've been given two rules when I come up to the stand. One is talk loudly so the microphone can pick you up, and hopefully I'll be okay at that. And the second is don't swear. So hopefully I'll stick to that one. Like Michelle, I was going to tell a joke today, but unfortunately the second rule prevents me because most of mine probably won't be appropriate for today. So very quickly, 23-24 financial year then. It was another good, strong financial year for the Trust and successful, you know. And what I can say, looking at those headlines in front of you, as a Trust, we completed our accounts on a going concern basis. And what that means, just for the folk in the room, is we undertook an assessment of the financial health of the organisation, and that gave us great confidence that we had the financial resources to be able to continue delivering our services under our own steam for the foreseeable future. You know, in year, yet again, we met our financial control target setting us for the system, and that was to deliver a break-even financial position. And I'm pleased to say on our controllable expenditure, that is the position. I am in charge of items, so I think I can manage clicking the postpone button. Ooh, obviously not. So in year, we delivered 2 million of efficiency savings against our budget reduction strategy, which is our cash releasing programme for savings in year. And all of those savings are recurrent in nature. We have a strong focus in the trust of our savings being recurrent in nature. That then puts us in the best position for planning for the future financial years. We ended the year with a strong cash position. We had £28 million in our bank. The first time I presented this 8 years ago, I think we were down to 6 or 7. So that gives you, the story of the journey we've been on as an organisation, and it's testament to everybody in the trust being able to build up that strong cash position, and that does put us in. I'm not going to say pole position, but that puts us in a relatively strong position should the ability to invest in our capital estate be presented to us. I'll go to the bottom point next. In maintaining our cash position, we still paid our suppliers on time. So we're not managing our cash by holding on to it and not paying our suppliers. In year, 92% of our suppliers were paid both on time in terms of value and volume. And finally, and this is another bullet point I'm really proud of when I stand in front of you, is we invested £14.5 million last financial year, improving our estate and digital infrastructure. And again, I often look back to when I started to present accounts in these type of rooms. I think the first year was about £2.5 million. So again, that is a significant amount of investment for an organisation of our size. So very quickly, 23-24, the environment we operated in was very similar to what it has been in previous years. So as I mentioned earlier, we had a target to break even for the year, which I'm pleased to say we delivered. We were funded on a block arrangement, so we're not paid on a tariff. So where demand for services go up and we deliver more, we don't achieve more income, we receive a block funding allocation, and we're expected to live with that within that allocation for the financial year. And it was the second year of the Specialist Provider Collaborative, where we as a trust host the commissioning of secure care across 3 pathways, being adult eating disorders, children and adolescent mental health inpatient services, and adult low and medium secure. And I think for me, that is something I'm incredibly proud of for this trust, taking on that role, adopting the role of host, but actually encouraging the partnership working for all members of that collaborative to make collective decision making. And I haven't got the information in front of me, but some of the stats, when you read the annual report and the newsletters that we send out on the collaborative, just shows what a difference we're making to patients and bringing people back closer to home. So some headline figures that when our accounts are published, you will see. So in year, our actual income was £257 million. And you can see that's an increase from the previous 2 financial years. So not an insignificant sum. The operating expenditure in our accounts is 267 million. Again, as you would expect, if our income has gone up, that was an increase from previous years. Now, the accountants in the room will all be looking at that and saying, well, hang on a minute then, you've made a 10 million deficit for the financial year. And in our accounts, we have posted a £10 million deficit, but that deficit is all driven by technical accounting treatments. And without boring you all on international financial reporting standards, it's to do with the treatment of our lease, the impairment of those assets, and it's a non-cash transaction. So it's purely the accounting treatment of assets that we lease that influenced the deficit that was driven in our account. And one thing I'm proud to say is borrowing for the trust is nil. So as an organisation, we have no external borrowing to service. Everything we've done, all our assets are all ours, fully funded and owned by ourselves. So I mentioned earlier, our income for the year was £257 million, if I can even say it. So where does that income come from? Well, you can see the bulk of it comes from our local NHS commissioners, that blue box at the bottom, and that is the Humber and North Yorkshire Integrated Care Board. And our income through that source this year was £145 million. The second biggest is NHS England, and that was £66 million, and a big chunk of that is the funding that flows to the host provider collaborative. We get a chunk of local authority income, around £18 million, and again, that is mainly the 0 to 19 health service contracts we have in place, and that's something that has grown in previous years. And then finally, we get some other odds and sods in there, so it's research income, education income, it's estates income. You'd have seen on a slide earlier, we've got 85 asset or estates around the organisation. We do sublet some of that estate to other tenants, and that brings with it an income, and we call it sweating the assets. So having had 257 million come into the organisation, 267 million goes out. And you can see the biggest area of expenditure for the trust is our investment in people. So, we have 3,600 headcount in the trust. That costs us roughly £163 million per year. And that's an investment in our workforce, in wages and salaries. The second biggest area of expenditure, and this is one that is growing, is the purchase of healthcare. So as a trust, we purchase healthcare from other providers now, roughly £74 million. A chunk of that is the Specialist Host Collaborative, but we are also the lead provider or host provider in other initiatives that are non-specialised. And in the past, we used to have a traditional ratio of 80-20 pay to non-pay in the trust, but you can see how the landscape is changing with the delegation of planning and collaboration to providers. And finally, the other expenditure, a big chunk of that is the technical items that we've done against our estate and the cost of the 85 assets we've got, and then general supplies and services. So I mentioned earlier our capital investment. It is something I'm been proud of. 7.4 million of that was investment in those 85 estate assets we've got across the trust. Just over 3 million was investment in the Yorkshire and Humber Care Record, which is something we host on behalf of partners. Whilst the name is Yorkshire and Humber, we have got actually other integrated care systems who use that product now, and it's, you'd expect me to say this, but it's probably one of the best integrated care records that are out there at the moment, and lots of people talk to us. And then we spent just shy of 4 million improving our digital infrastructure. So that was technical IT, your laptops, your estates that we provide people with on a replacement basis, an element of enabling the work on the electronic patient record and the move to a new system. And then we also did some data warehousing and data lakes, which, don't ask me what a data lake is, but it sounds really, really interesting. So improving our estate. We know as a trust we've got an ageing estate, and it's a challenge for us. But I look at our estate as an organisation, and I'm always impressed with how we maintain it and how we do our best to improve it with the resources we've got. So last year, of the £5.5 million we spent improving our estate, some of the bigger projects, and you can see some images on there. So we continued our rolling refurbishment programme of the Humber Centre across the road there, and indeed there were some slides on some of the stands earlier. We started the enabling work for Granville Court, which is a learning disability residential unit in Hornsey. We've got significant plans for the refurbishment and full redevelopment of that, and that work should start towards the end of this financial year. We invested in the green plan and carbonisation. So you can see at the bottom there is our electric vans, and again, green is on everybody's agenda at the moment, and we have electrified all of our estate vehicles bar one, and the one we can't is one. The one we haven't is one we can't, and it's a big Luton van that for whatever reason we just cannot get an electronic Luton van. And then finally, one of the priorities for last year on our capital programme was the upgrade of our seclusion suites. So we identified it as a CQC priority in the trust. We ring-fenced £1 million of resource in our capital programme. We have completed the majority of the work. We have one site that is still on site at the moment, and that was due to planning and external build, but that work is due to complete in the next 4 to 6 weeks. And then finally, from me, it's just a few words in terms of looking forward to the new financial year. So the current financial regime is here to stay. So we continue to have a break-even target for the financial year, and we continue to operate in a block funding arrangement. I have to say this year feels more challenging than ever has been, because within that block funding arrangement, we haven't really seen any growth come into the organisation. No mental health investment standard, no service development funding growth, which we have benefited from in previous years. It's felt very much a flat allocation year. All of that funding is now flowing through the Integrated Care Board, and I include in that capital now. So we end up with a capital control total that we negotiate with the Integrated Care Board. Non-pay pressures continue to be, an area of significant focus for the trust. We benefited because we used to pre-purchase our energy from a company called Inenco. So when we saw the huge spikes in gas and electricity 2 years ago, we were benefiting because we'd already pre-purchased our energy. But those agreements have come to an end, and obviously we're starting to see a bit of a pinch on our non-pay, and then obviously pay award. We've all seen the press. Pay awards of 5.5% plus are being awarded at the moment. The planning guidance only allows for 2%. We've been given a guarantee by NHS England that we will get the pay award funding for us. What that guarantee means locally versus nationally is still up to debate, and often there are gaps for mental health trusts in pay award funding. But what it does mean is there's always a consequential impact, because if NHS England are funding the pay award, they've got to find the resource to fund that, which means any funding allocated for other programmes, such as frontline digitisation, estates, green, is often clawed back to fund that. And then the last point that I'll make on my slides is we are seeing more of a move to more of a move to delegation of commissioning responsibilities to provider collaboratives. So we already have a successful model in place for secure services for the pathways I mentioned earlier. It feels very much that there's a shift in the direction of travel, that there'll be more core mental health running through that route. And if I'm honest, I think it's the correct direction of travel. If you've got mental health providers around the table planning and making those decisions, they are the best people placed to do that and do it in a collaborative way. So I think that's me, hopefully. It is. So I'm now going to hand over to Tony to give you a governor's perspective. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Tony Douglas. I'm a public governor at Humber Trust, and I'm presenting the lead governor report today on behalf of Marilyn Foster. Unfortunately, Marilyn can't be with us today. She's actually on leave, and so she's given her apologies. I'd like also to thank you all for attending today's annual members meeting. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the governors for their continued commitment to the Trust over the last 12 months. My presentation introduces our current Council of Governors and highlights some of the activities we've been involved in the last 12 months until April this year. So the first slide shows you these are public governors for Hull and East Riding, and we've got a whole range of experience and talent here amongst the public governors. I won't go through them names, but some of them are in the room today. We've got some vacancies, elections coming up, which I'll speak about shortly as well. So these are our public governors and service users and carer governors. And these are our elected staff governors, and here to represent the views of staff members. And then we have, on the next slide, these are our appointed governors. Now, these are governors who represent the organisations that have appointed them. So it's quite a mix, quite a range of governors. And we have some new governors as well. We've got some elected, re-elected public governors. We've got elected staff governors and appointed governors. I won't go through the names, but these have been appointed up until April this year. At this point, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank those governors that stood down during April 2023 to March 24. And I'll just run through the names. These are Dov Pollard, who was our former lead governor, Sue Cooper, Tom Nicklin, John Cunnington, Jenny Bristow, Joanne Gardner, Julie Abraham, and Maureen Bristow. Now, governors have a duty to represent the views of our members and the public. And in the case of our appointed governors, the organisations that appointed them, regarding the trust services and plans. And here today to listen to any comments you have. And probably it's worth asking any governors in the room, would you just like to stand and make yourselves known? Please, if you could. I think thank you. Now, this next slide highlights the key area of focus. So, we consider how representative our membership is, as this helps us to determine whether we should be inviting people from any underrepresented group or background or areas to become members, and hopefully in the future governors. Last year's review revealed our membership is broadly representative of the populations we provide services to. but we know we can do better. But we look at it every year. Another key duty of the governors is to ensure that our non-executive directors effectively challenge the other board directors on all matters regarding the work of the trust. On a practical level, we do this by inviting non-executive directors to attend our council government meetings. I think there's 4 of them a year, where they report on their work and answer governor questions. We can also attend the board meetings in public, where we observe the discussion firsthand. All of the non-executive directors attend the council of government meetings, and then there's other opportunities through various groups and meetings. And governors do have the opportunity to visit areas in the trust. These visits are normally undertaken with a non-exec director and someone from the service, for example. So we learn a lot about the services. We have a monthly meeting briefing with a chair, the chief executive, or another executive director, where we learn about key activities of the trust and ask questions about these. And it's also a chance for them to ask us questions. We've also attended a development session between the board and council of governors, where we reflected on our respective roles and how these complement one another. And there are a whole range of other development sessions that are held throughout the year for governors, where we learn about plans in the trust and future plans and just issues we need to know about. And we've made some key appointments, and you've heard about those earlier from Michelle. And between April 2023 and March 2024, we've approved the appointments of 2 associate non-executive directors. And this is Priyanka Pereira and David Smith. And we've thanked Hanif Malik, a former associate non-executive director, for the valuable contribution he made in this role. Hanif's term of official ended in October 2023. And we have a membership plan. Last year, we developed a membership plan which outlines how we will recruit new members with an interest in healthcare and how we will obtain and share views from the members and the public with the trust. We regularly review the plan and our progress against it at our Engaging with Members group meetings. I'm the chair of that group as well, so we encourage governors to attend. And that's a very important meeting as part of the governor role. Now, last year there was a review of the Constitution, and we agreed a number of changes to the Trust Constitution to ensure it complied with changes brought about by the Health and Social Care Act 2022. And this was relating to the need of trusts to work in partnership with other providers. This was a very thorough review, and as a group of governors, we did not believe any further amendments were required in this year, as in from April this year. And the main changes to the Constitution have been the Whitby constituency has been renamed Whitby, Scarborough and Rydale. The wider Yorkshire and Humber constituency has been renamed as the rest of England. So Tim, who represents that, has obviously got a very big and busy job there. And we changed the maximum number of terms that a governor can serve, and this is extended to 3 terms, and it's 3 terms of 3 years. Now, we've just opened up yesterday the governor elections, and we'll be encouraging people to nominate themselves to become a governor where we have vacancies. And the vacancies include public governors and staff governors. You might want to consider becoming a governor for any number of reasons. And these 3 reasons, the main reasons why I stood as a governor, nominated myself 3 years ago. You want to give back and make a positive contribution to your local healthcare and trust. You want to work closely with the board of your local trust. And you want to help your local NHS services better by make your services better by telling the trust what local people think about their services and plans and how they might take them forward. Now, this is a voluntary role. It's not an operational role in nature. So governors don't manage staff and tell them what to do. Instead, we give feedback to the trust about what members and local people are saying. And it's personally rewarding. But the most important part of this rewarding is for the staff and patients. Through any changes that are made. And I think the important thing to say is that, if you want to be a governor, there's a whole range of experience. And every experience, be it working in NHS, and I've been in the NHS for a long time, but from outside the NHS, it all counts. It's all really worthwhile. So, if a role of the governor appeals to you, please visit the governor's stall, which is out in reception, and you'll be able to find out more, or speak to one of the governors who have just made themselves known to you. So that's the end of my short presentation. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of today's meeting, and I'll hand you back to Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you for that. That was really interesting. And please do. It's such a vital role. Is being a governor within the organisation. So please do give it some thought. And there is a stand at the front door for that. So I'm going to just talk a little bit now about this year, 24-25, because obviously what I referred to earlier on was looking back a little bit. So it's quite a good opportunity just to tell you a little bit about what we're doing at the moment, now what we will continue to do to next March, and then we can have a conversation about that next time we meet. So forensic services, we've mentioned a lot about the capital development and the work that was going on in relationship to forensic earlier on, but we're going to continue to improve our patient environment in our forensic services. But we're also going to look at enhancing the inpatient physical health offer, which I think is so important, and there's been a stall today around that, stand today about that. It's really important to that, the physical and the mental health, which we referred to earlier. But it's about also aligning pathways and the processes and the governance around patients and that background care. And that's about improving an alignment to our pathways, specifically around community, learning disability, forensic outreach and liaison services. So there's no gaps in between, really, that we link them together. And we'll continue to work with our prison service population, and we'll continue to develop the services that we're providing there with other agencies as well. So community primary care, we're going to continue to develop the integrated addiction inclusion health services, and it was really good that's been recommissioned up until 2027. A lot of our services, because they're on a block contract, do come up for retendering. So we've got that, and they do a lot of really innovative work, not just around the addictions, but about inclusion with fishermen and lots of other things as well. And that's got some really, really good outcomes. And it's about outcomes and actually demonstrating what we do. So we're going to continue to develop that now we've got that footprint established. Virtual wards I referred to earlier on, but it's really important that we continue that, because especially, obviously, we've got the new government in place, and one of their key aims is around the move from hospital to home. And I see virtual wards as a real key element in that, really expanding and building on the community services that we've got, but really keeping patients out of hospital, but also moving them through that hospital environment quicker. And it's really great that the capacity within our virtual wards is being met, because there was some, it was peaks and troughs, but we're doing some really great work on that now from a hospital point of view. The out-of-hours service around call handling and community call handling will help access, but it will also help that shift from inpatients to community. And we mentioned access around GPs and getting access to GP appointments. We are going to try and embed and roll out our GP telephone system. It's a really good solution. We do hit problems with it, and we do have challenges, but it will help the primary care access as we go through this year. So mental health, we're going to continue to reduce our out-of-area placements. It is important that we look at that from a quality point of view. We still do have a lot of out-of-area placements, not as many as other areas, and we will continue to reduce that by working in collaboration, but also really developing the facilities and the capacity that we've got within our organisation. And Pete alluded to the provider collaboratives, and a way of doing that is really by developing that provider collaborative accountability further. So I'm a great supporter of that as well. And we've got lots of work around neurodiversity and assessment, both from an assessment but also from a diagnosis point of view, both within our mental health services as well as in our children and young people services. And we are going to develop as part of that a new autism crisis service. Now, it might seem strange that we're going to develop a 5-year vision for mental health services, but there's lots of different documentations, policies, changes in mental health services. It's important that we continue to forward plan as much as we can. That will be subject to change as we develop and we do that collaboration event, but it's about continuing that vision that we've got and that we'll build on within the organisation. So that will take place and continue to develop our services that we've got through a transformation programme already. So children and learning disabilities, we've mentioned neurodiversity a lot because it is one of the key focuses that we need to really look at how we're managing and how we're dealing with our waiting lists. We're also looking after and how we're caring for people on those waiting lists as well. So we will continue to do that, not just by monitoring the performance and discussing it, but actually by looking at how we can develop the pathways further. I don't like the terminology productivity, but are we as productive as we can be? And we'll continue, as Pete alluded to in that slide, commission services from other areas if we feel there's a need to do that, and it's the best interest of our patients because they're central to what we do. We will do the Granville Court transformation. We've already started the process of that. It is a large piece of work, transforming our services at Hornsey, which will mean decanting patients to other areas. It's a major transformation piece of work, but one that's been readily accepted both by our staff but our patients, and they're really eager to do that. And we'll continue our development of schools from a neurodiversity point of view and expedite the waiting list from a health inequalities point of view. So health inequalities, I mentioned earlier on, we do a lot of work around health inequalities now, and I think we're getting a real better groundwork around the determinants of ill health for our communities and those communities that we serve. So we will make sure and continue to ask the questions about when we're developing strategies, transformation projects, that we're not just talking about it, but we're actually sort of saying, well, how is this affecting the health inequalities across our organisation and our communities? And that means access and outcomes and determining those. And we've got lots of different streams of work ongoing, both internally and with our partners externally. And we'll continue to work with those connections around and draw them together. Real key focus, that we'll pick on that next year. So our journey continues. Lots to do, lots of challenges, but with the patients at the very centre of what we do, supported by our fantastic staff that we will continue to support and develop and look at how we can really, really develop and support their health and well-being across their journey as well. So quality improvement is key. Patient safety, that partnership approach, those collaborations, the learning that we spoke about when we don't quite get it right, but also when we do get it right. Because as an NHS, we sometimes don't concentrate enough on actually when we do things right and how we share that practice out across the organisation. Staff health and wellbeing, I want to apologise for continuing to say that. It is absolutely key to what we do, and we'll never forget that. Being humble, everything that we do is around being humble. And that will help our recruitment processes, it will help our openness, our communication skills with everybody else, and it'll help that co-production piece that's so important. I haven't mentioned the ICB yet, because as Peter said earlier on, I'm not quite sure that I want to swear at this stage, but it is really important that we have got a really good relationship with the Integrated Care Board. And we have. I do support the Integrated Care Board a lot. I'm part of their board, I'm part of their core programming and influencing teams. And we will continue to work with them from an alliance point of view, say, how can we do things better collectively across the system for those communities that we serve? So our journey is about you in this room. It's about the staff, it's about the services that we provide, it's about how we do that. But importantly for me and the team and everybody here, we need to do that collectively together as a community. So please, let's keep talking. Let's keep on that journey together. There will be bumps in the road, but we'll overcome those bumps together. So thank you for your time today. Thank you for listening. Please continue to work with us and support us. And I look forward to seeing if there's any questions later.
So we're going to go to questions now, and I think we have some. Thank you very much indeed. Okay. Mic on there? So, okay. What are you looking forward to next year? Obviously, you've covered a lot this afternoon already, Michelle. But actually, there might be some other executive management team members. Hilary, she's looking at me like, oh, God. What are you looking for? Hilary, stand up and introduce yourself. There we go.
Hello everyone, I'm Lieutenant Director of Nursing, Allied Health and Social Care Professionals. That's the longest title, which my deputy also shares. What am I looking forward to next year? I'm really looking forward to see what happens around that host provider role, because that will be quite a shift for the trust. And I'm really looking forward to our staff putting forward even more awards. I've been with the trust now over 9 years, and if I look back to the early years when I was here, the staff never put in for any awards. There was very little recognition of the excellent work that they were doing then. But now it's almost everybody is putting their awards in, they're recognising it, and the positivity from that, because when you do that, it attracts other people to come and work here, and we can see that some of the quality of some of the staff that are coming to work for us now is excellent, and they're coming from far and wide. But it also shows about the quality of the care that we're giving here as well, so it's showcasing that. And it's a real good factor for the teams. And I think that more and more of that is what I'm really looking forward to seeing. And just events like this, when you go around and you talk to the teams, the enthusiasm, the passion for what they're doing. I was talking to Ali there, and she said, we've met, we're saying about we're going to do this, but how do we do that? I said, crack on and do it. This is what brings innovation. This is what brings the quality improvement. And the trust for me, looking back to my early years, it is unrecognisable in that. So keep doing what you're doing, everybody, because it is fantastic. Marmy?
In addition to what you've said. There are two things I think Michelle referenced. One of them, health inequality. I think that's something that is really, really passionate to the organization, and I'm delighted to be leading that. It's making sure equality of access, making sure that we reach all the areas who struggle to be able to access services. One of the projects that we have is called Innovation Hub, bringing all the ideas, bringing all the good things that is happening around the county as well as in the organization together into a project called Innovation Hub. I'm really looking forward to it so that we can actually celebrate not only physically but also virtually. Actually, we producing a lot of good things. And of course, I'm looking forward to making sure that we lift our patient care, the patient offer from strength to strength.
Oh, you said it all yesterday. Why aren't we the top trust in the country in terms of
number one in the GMC when it came to the training that we offer. So as a trust, we have always managed to train the future doctors, nurses, HPs. And every time we've had monitoring, either from the GMC, NMC, or the medical schools, we always on the top. And actually the results we got for training with the GMC out of the 212 organizations who were surveyed, who were number one. That's
my job, to make sure you talk about some of the things we do. Karen, would you like to? I'm just working around the EMT here. Steph, are you looking over there?
Thank you. I deliberately put things on my knees so I couldn't stand up, but I didn't get away with that. So a couple of things for me. I think if anyone that knows me knows I talk about the staff survey a lot. I think we've mentioned it today in that we saw great success in our staff survey last year. We're hoping to build on that success this year. It's really important to understand reviews of our staff and how they feel when they're delivering care to our patients. We really use that as an important tool to make improvements. So to see that 2024 is really exciting for me. I don't stop talking about it. So to engage with that and improve our services for our patients, but also for you as our staff, is really important to me. Being humble, we've talked about culture an awful lot today, but it is integral to you all coming to work, enjoying working here. So developing our culture is really important. To see that new refresh of being humble embedded over the course of the next few months will be really great for you all and for our patients. But also it's up and coming, and I can see that John Duncan's actually on the screen in the background there, but to see some of our EDI streams of work really land in the organisation, building a safe environment for our staff to come to work and feel free and able to be themselves. So to see us deliver against No Excuse for Abuse and our Respect campaign, really, really important to me, very exciting for us as a trust.
Our head of corporate affairs. What are you looking forward to next year, Stella? You need the mic, Stella.
Hi, so I'm just looking forward to supporting the board to go from strength to strength. We do have some new board appointments, and I want to support them as well to be the best they can be.
Anything you want to add, Michelle? I don't know, you've had your go, haven't you, Pete? You've got
Just very quickly, because you're probably fed up hearing from me, but I guess 3 things that I would think about that I'm looking forward to the next financial year are the continued rollout of our environmental improvements and seeing the benefit some of those are in terms of our CO2 footprint. The rollout of the electronic patient record, it worries me, you know, because we're in that implementation phase. But when we roll it out, it's what staff told us they wanted. You know, I've heard for the last 8 years how terrible our existing electronic patient record is. So I'm hoping that is, and to finally put the spade in the ground at Bramble Court. You know, I will celebrate that day greatly when we put the spade in the ground there. So that's 3 more for me, thank you.
Michelle? No, just to echo everything that the other executives said, really. I think for me, the continuation of that journey of being humble is really vital. I think we're also the Bramble Court, particular electronic patient record, all the things that we've said, but certainly working with our staff to continue to develop our journey and continue those hubs in the road and get them flat as much as we can, but also to make a real difference to our neurodiversity waiting times, I think is really important. But I need to study next year so that we continue to improve, because we are improving, but we still need to do more work on that. But I'm going to ask you what you're most looking forward to next year.
What am I most looking forward to next year? I mean, all the projects that I know are underway are you know, just really important, and it's been, you know, this last year. I mean, part of it is for me, and looking forward is just going out and meeting staff, because honestly, the sense of continuing looking to improve, to explore and innovate is just creates such good energy, I think, you know, in difficult circumstances for everybody. So I'm, you know, I'm just looking forward to see some of those ideas come to fruition. I've just, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I was just talking to some colleagues in terms of working with older people and memory. I think there's some positive news on that front going to be, I'm looking at Hillary whether I should say this in public or not. There's some positive news about some new work happening in that space. And, you know, part of it is for me is when we get that sort of accreditation, when we get that sort of knowledge of what we can do and being asked to deliver, it's the hope to see that next year and beyond next year, if we can prove that we can do something that's different, that's going to help our patients, being enabled to continue that work into the future. So yeah, I'm really excited. I think one of the things just picking up from the marketplace today is our occupational health team, who've just won their re-accreditation for the work they do. They are doing work not only within our trust, but with others outside the trust. I think that's a really important space that we could contribute to in the future. And I'm interested to hear how that might go ahead next year, because there's a lot of employers across our patch who we could help to keep their staff healthy and safe, but also help them carry on working. And I think that's something we can really contribute to from our trust, because we're doing it for our staff. We can help other employers do it for theirs as well. So I think that's an exciting area for next year. So the next question for you, Michelle, and if you've got a question, I'm going to be looking for hands up. This is just a breather for you to get your question on. This is a really good question, I think. How do you stay in touch with all the services in your position as Chief Exec? Because we have such a broad base of services and covering a large area. How do you keep in touch?
By the way, I didn't know any of these questions, by the way. Just about visibility and meeting people and constantly, I mean, yes, there is a variety basis, but I do try and get out and about as much as I can. But we also do, especially now we've got the digital network that we've got, I do a lot on Teams as well, where I go down into services and meet with staff. But it's just generally going round and about. I still do some clinical shifts as much as I can, which within the framework of my diary and what have you. But it's just that visibility. And one of the things I think that we've worked on really hard as a board, and you'll see from our board papers, and please do have a look at them, they are public papers, is that each of the directors starts with their visibility on a monthly basis, where they've been, how good they've met. Because yes, I do a lot nationally, I do a lot regionally, I do an awful lot from an ICB point of view, but it's really important that you have that connectivity. Because yes, we have got a lot of services. Plus I'm very inquisitive, I've still got that professional curiosity really. And I think I'm probably known for not listening very much either, to be honest, and I am quite nosy. So I do utilise that professional curiosity quite a bit. So I think being a clinician is helpful because you get that real understanding of some of the service areas a lot more than I'm not advocating that non-NHS managers, but it just helps, I think, that clinician understanding. Okay. Any questions from all of you in the audience here? Ooh. No. Anything on Teams? Is there anything on the chat? On Teams? Did anything come through on the online? I've got a few more questions that have been submitted here, so I can always go back to them. Gentleman there, could you say who you are? That'd be great. I think there's a microphone, sir. Yeah.
My name is John Arthur. I'm a councillor at Bridlington Town Councillor. I was a mayor last year, and my question really is, how involved and how focused are you on the operation of your primary care services? It's not really been mentioned today.
Thank you. I would normally ask the Deputy Chief Executive Operating Officer that one, which is actually on leave. I mean, I did mention actually primary care because I mentioned it about going forward in relationship to the GP telephone system, and I mentioned it when we look back last year around some of the challenges that we've had around access, particularly I mentioned in primary care. So I think that we are really well versed on that. Certainly the board this past year have had 2 or 3 really detailed board strategic sessions. Every other month we have a board strategic session where we really concentrate on 1 or 2 items, and that's really a couple of those have been really detailed about primary care, how we offer what we do, how we can improve the accessibility of our services, etc. So I think I also get up and about. We go to Market Week quite a lot, certainly within Young for Primary Care Limited, and we've just appointed a new deputy medical director for primary care. And so I think that we're well versed. We do appreciate the challenges that we've got, but certainly they're not more or less out with any of the other national challenges in relationship to primary care in general. And I'm certainly helping facilitate the ICB on looking at how, as an integrated care system, we can integrate more of the community services into primary care and vice versa, around developing integrated community teams, for example. And I think that's also important going forward because we know we've got demand pressures in primary care. We also know we've got some really good things. We've certainly spent a lot more resource this year in primary care, both from a capital point of view, because we did that at Bridlington, but we also spent a lot more on like associate practitioners and other extended practitioner roles. And we are, I think, at the moment, generally relatively GP fully recruited at the moment. That we did have patches, which is great. We did have patches last year where we weren't. That helps. Yeah. And our governance sessions, we've also had presentations on primary care, and some of our governors are involved in some of our PPGs in practices too. And I think what's interesting as well is just talking to the connectivity between our GP practices and those services in the community provided by our district nurses, palliative nurses, and so on, is just how we can make actually primary care be able to do what it should be doing. And as the government said, and I think we'd all agree with this, we've all thought it for a long time, we need to get from, obviously we've got to treat people, but we've also got to prevent ill health as well. And as much as possible, that's where the virtual wards fit in that. GP referrals and other referrals from clinicians will help us also develop some of those services, which are best placed for helping people be out of hospital and provide what they need in their home. So we have lots of discussions, I can assure you, about the interrelationship between all those areas, as well as dealing with the priorities that concern patients, which is access and how that is done, and how they can have some of the services they might go to hospital for actually happening inside their GP practice or locally in the community where they live. And for the area that you talk about, it fits in also to our discussions about health inequalities as well. Everybody wants a good health care across the areas that we serve, but we know, don't we, that within certain postcode areas, actually being able to keep healthy, to be able to prevent ill health is a harder task because of the circumstances in which people live. And that's something we feel passionately that needs to be addressed, working with our partners as well. So I can assure you it's definitely part of our focus and part of our priorities to provide that. Thank you for the question. Final question. Yeah, sorry. Yes, final question.
I'm Mary Calvert, I'm a PPG representative from King Street Surgery.
Hi.
I'm interested in the question this councillor's just asked and your response, because I am really concerned about the weight that PPG input is being given by the trust. Phil is a representative of this here, so he will have heard everything that has happened at King Street. But I do get a feeling, and I don't know if it's right or not, that many of the pushbacks we get from the surgery are actually pushbacks from the trust. And as I say, Phil doesn't know what those concerns are. But also, you've related to health inequalities, and it was an interesting stand down here that I saw. But I didn't see in that health inequalities anything about older people, and that links into some of the PPG concerns about access to GPs through the various digital tools that are available, and the concerns older people have trying to use those and trying to get access. But it also relates to care. You talked about virtual wards, and I know that that's part of a bigger policy than the Humber Trust policy. But older people going back into their own homes, being looked after by older people who are already infirm on the edge. And I can speak very directly about my next door neighbour in this respect. They are absolutely desperate. And I don't really get a feeling that is really on the agenda at the moment, either nationally or regionally or from a trust point of view. And that is a big concern for me.
Thank you for your question. I mean, there's so much in that we could obviously spend a lot of time talking about. And just to say, in terms of obviously your PPG, we'll take that away. We'll take that away in terms of following up what you said, because we certainly do want all those involved in the community and supporting healthcare, volunteers like yourself who do that work across the practices. We have obviously 3. There are lots of GP practices across the area. We have contracts to do certain things in the community in terms of our health visitors, our school nurses, our community nurses, our district nurses. They don't always join up, and that's part of the contracting system. But we are very much alive to a lot of things you're saying about how do we support people to live their lives, but also when they're dealing with critical conditions that are with them, help them to support their own health, but also how best we can help them home. So we've heard what you said, and we'll take away and follow up on some of the issues you've raised. But Michelle, would you like to add anything to that?
That is a really good point, and it's certainly not pushback from the trust. We do talk about PPGs a lot with the executive team and get updates from doing that. So we will take that back and just look and see why we feel that's happening. I think you're absolutely right in relationship to joining up that care and certainly elderly from a health inequalities point of view. And it is one of the things that I'm raising within the Integrated Care Board when we look at integrated services. And certainly integrated services. Sometimes, yes, I did spend a bit of time on children and people, but we can't avoid the frailty piece and the caring aspect as well. But it's just a bit about how do we engage further in relationship to that. So we'll have some conversations, but it's certainly something that I'm very well aware of and that we're trying to link into, because it's wider than just Humber FT. I think it's about that more joining up services with local authorities, for example, as well. How do we really continue that engagement with social care and also access to respite care as well, which is declining. So I think it's the whole system and how do we link that closer together. And I think that's part of the reason why we're looking at provider collaboratives and how we link and really give the accountability to provider collaboratives. If you bring more providers together, having that conversation, it should help you serve that issue, for me personally, because at the moment we're just a bit too disjointed. So we'll have some conversations. It's a really good point. Thanks for the question. Okay, that's the end of our proceedings. Thanks everybody for coming along this afternoon. I hope you had the chance to learn a little bit more about our services. Obviously a huge range there, some of them directly dealing with issues around for older people in particular here today. And thank you to everybody. Can I thank the volunteers who helped make this event happen today, friendly faces, guiding people through the myriad of buildings that we have on this particular site. Thanks to all the comms team and staff who've been involved in organising today's event. Our governors are here. Don't forget, the nominations are now open. If you would like to become a governor, I think there's still some information out near the front door if you want to pick up on your way out. Nominations opened yesterday. I think they continue for at least the next 4 weeks, so there's plenty of time to think about that. Thanks to my board colleagues who are also here today, executive management team, non-executive directors, and our staff who are here, staff online, people online, public everywhere. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again next year.